Yummy, yumma. Welcome, everyone. My name is Mitch Tambo. I'm a proud Candice Lorrae man, and my people aren't from here. So first and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge, pay respects to the true owners of this land, this place, to the Wurundjeri people of the Cullen Nation, and extend that acknowledgement out to the Boonwurrung and all members that make up the beautiful Cullen Nation, and acknowledge them here today as the true owners of this land, whose law has been here since the beginning of creation, that transcends into the Warrnambool, the Milky Way, flows through the Bugeye, the waterways, and Yuligi's dances across this country as we hear and feel it mainly whisper to us when we let our spirit go and we connect to this place. So I acknowledge them here today. Welcome to another beautiful Yarning Strong. We're going to be talking about all the beauty in NAIDOC week today, and we're also going to get into a bit of the nitty-gritty, also not so good of such a beautiful week as well. But first and foremost, just going to give it up for Candice, our beautiful guest here.
Hi, everyone.
One half of the incredible Merindas, and our awesome one and only Cerisa.
Hi.
And it's going to be fun today. And also our guests here, Michael and Laura. So welcome you, mob. Thanks for joining us in the cyber world. We love connecting through the cyber world, and I'm going to hand over to Cerisa to do a bit of housekeeping, and we'll go from there.
So just to let you guys know, we do have a tab at the cafe at the front. So if you do say that you're in this session, there's free coffee and some snacks there as well for you guys to have, and toilet just down the hall as well. So my name is Cerisa. I'm Support Act's First Nations Community Engagement and Social Worker. It's a big name. We'll look at shortening that soon. But I would also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Boonwurrung and Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, whose lands we are currently on today. I'm a proud Jawoyn, Gurindji and Warlpiri woman from Katherine, Northern Territory. And yeah, we're here today to discuss about NAIDOC Week and how that kind of plays a role for people who work in music, First Nations people.
Beautiful. Candice.
Yes.
It's time for you to give that epic intro to introduce yourself. Let's go. So everyone kick back for at least half hour while we hear all the accolades and magnificent.
Hey everyone, I'm Candice Lorrae. It's wonderful to be here. I'm also a Jawoyn woman, Jawoyn girls here. Also have ties to the Torres Strait. I was born in Darwin, and and I grew up mostly in Perth with my mum. So I get my Aboriginal side comes from my father's side, and I left home at 8. So I grew up in Perth, and on my way to Perth as a young artist, we found a cassette tape as a Whitney Houston tape, and that's when I decided I want to be in music. So at 8 years old, I wanted to do music, so that was kind of my dream. And I went to AB Music College at 16, and I was forever wanting to create, and I became a music producer and also a singer-songwriter, and I'm currently, yes, one half of the Merindas. We are an electronic pop duo, and yeah, so my life, I'm now full-time music, and yeah, I'm now based here in Melbourne, just following the dream, and yeah.
Love that. You got to give it up for Candice. Come on. She's getting it done, and she's kind of downplayed it because, you know what, she's one half of the Merindas, but if you see the Merindas, they're always dressed in very, very incredible. She's making it all. She's a producer, videographer, the list goes on. So, multi-talented. So we really look forward to your input today. And at the back here, we've got Laura and Michael, and I believe they're studying psychology. Is that correct? So we're really looking forward to your input today, as long as you're not going to go and analyse me, because I'm not really up for that, all right? So just leave me alone. These two here, they're all right, but I'm not ready for all that. But if you just want to, Michael, Laura, if you want to just give yourself a quick intro, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
Laura, if you may.
Still trying to work out.
Laura, you're a little bit...
everyone.
Good.
Oh, the nerves have kicked in.
Laura, you're a little bit delayed, so I might get you to mute your microphone for a second. And Michael, if you don't mind doing a bit of an intro for the both of you, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure.
My name is Laura Booker. I'm a Lungu Jilya woman Understand?
Oh, go for it, Michael.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so my name's Michael Cullen. I'm Nigerian Narunga. I'm from SA. Third year undergrad psychology student. And yeah, I'm also a musician, will try to be. So I've got like a bit of a studio happening at the moment. Other than that, I've had the privilege of working alongside Life Without Barriers, Cullen, Samari and Beyond Blue. And I'm really interested in, treating mental health disorders with a holistic perspective. So I'm doing a lot of research in how nutrition and works alongside inflammation and metabolic disorders that lead to neurological disorders such as multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, and dementia.
Awesome. Thanks very much, brother. Appreciate you sharing that. And to all the mob that are tuning in online, we acknowledge you and all that's come before you as well. So let's get into it. NAIDOC Week, here we are, a week of celebration. For those of you out there tuning in that don't know what NAIDOC is, in a nutshell, it's really a beautiful week where we come together as a community to celebrate the incredible achievements of our community, being the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander community of this nation. So let's get into it. Candice, what does NAIDOC mean to you? Talk me through that, because I know you haven't been asked this question before, or 20 times this week. So what does it mean?
Yeah, well, I guess the story of NAIDOC for me is my journey with NAIDOC, and as a young person growing up with my mum, not on country, I first found NAIDOC as a young artist being booked for NAIDOC gigs, and I guess for me it meant for me to connect to the wider Aboriginal community and connect with culture more, because it's not like you get the opportunity all year round to connect with mob and culture, and it's a beautiful way of seeing it and being involved in it and growing up with it and learning and being part of that to continue that on and use it within my art as well. But there's also that the other side to it as well is for the non-Indigenous community to connect with Aboriginal, Black, First Nations people as well, to learn culture and connect. And but yeah, it's definitely it's only 1 week of the year, and there's a lot to learn. So for me, NAIDOC is all about celebrating our culture through our yarning, our dance, our music, our art, and and continuing that. It's fun. It's a celebration, really. For me, it's a beautiful celebration.
Beautiful celebration. I think for me, I remember NAIDOC as a very young person being the week where we got to cut our cake, and you got the flag on the cake, and we're going to cut it at school, and we're all going to get a piece, and then we're just going to celebrate for the week. And then that progressing into a very busy week as a young person at school, where it's like, it's NAIDOC week, we're not going to class all week because we're just going to be painted up and we're going to be dancing at every school and event in the whole town. Let's go. And then you get a bit older again, and I think you start to really reflect on it. And some of the questions are, it's such a great week, but how come after that week's finished, we're not busy anymore? Like, what's going on? We're so in demand of that week. Lots of the time, especially growing up, you wouldn't get asked to do anything until the day before. And so I'm like, hey, can you be there and play some Dig tomorrow? Can you be here, can you be there? And you just flat out and wanted, and it's like, whoa, we're so valued right now. And then all of a sudden, that week's over, and it's just like, what now? It's really interesting, isn't it? But what about you, Cerisa? Talk us through it.
Very similar to what you guys kind of experienced is NAIDOC Week is a celebration to celebrate who we are and why we're here and that we survived colonisation. So it's a great way for us to reflect and get together with community, and we get that opportunity, and it's really amazing. And then you feel like you're connected to culture again. I just like my brain went to a book that I'm reading, and it's called Another Day in the Colony. And she talks about, you know, as First Nations people, we now don't get that opportunity to be continuously surrounded by our culture. And so we're still feeling that disconnect as we grow as young Indigenous people. We're in this Western world where we go to school, we got to pay the bills, we got to fit into society, and we've completely got to lose that side of us in order to survive in this growing Western world that we're currently in. And then if we were connecting to culture, and if we were in that, we would feel more connected and more empowered, and we just don't get that opportunity anymore. So NAIDOC Week is a huge reminder about that. Yeah,
great. It's really interesting because I was having this conversation recently about NAIDOC and it being this incredible week and how progressive we are and how far we've come. And, you know, there's place names wherever you go. There's these big corporate business putting the local language as the name of a certain hub, or changing street signs, or all these beautiful things. We're seeing a massive trend in our clothing, all of these incredible things that show all this momentum, but our statistics aren't really changing. And that poses a really interesting question, doesn't it? Because we have this week and NAIDOC's getting so big and it's this event and the whole community's a part of it, and we've got mainstream TV changing the place names. Instead of Melbourne it says Naarm, and there's all this stuff happening, but our statistics remain. We're the most over-incarcerated group of people on the planet. Out of all Indigenous people in the whole wide world, we've got the lowest life expectancy. Our kids are being removed at such a high rate, it's superseding the stolen generation. We've got the highest rates of suicide in the world. Many of our people are spending so much time getting dialysis and fighting type 2 diabetes and very preventable chronic illnesses. And we make up 3% of the population. And when you weigh it up, you go, wow, 3% of the population, but we're faced with all of these odds stacked up against us. How many of us is actually out there, you know, getting degrees, doing this work? And we're out there, but when you put it down in the context of the whole nation, 3%, and then all these statistics, you know, the sad reality is we probably spend more time at funerals than even with the thought of pursuing a higher education, which is really interesting. So for me, it poses a lot of questions, which I want to ask you. What does get up, stand up, show up mean to you when we talk about NAIDOC this year? And I don't mean just for us, our mob, but as a collective, as a nation. What does that theme mean to you, Candice? What do you reckon?
I think for me, like with the theme of NAIDOC and only being the week that it is, I think it's for everyone to be on board with it. Like every venue, organisation, business out there to create their own NAIDOC week, no matter what time of the year it is, but to create a space to dedicate and acknowledge First Nations people and create something to bring people together. You know, and to understand that too, not just tick the box, you know. There's been plenty of NAIDOC gigs that I've done, and these are gigs that are planned by, you know, white organisations. And the event is NAIDOC, flag raising ceremony, welcome to country. And then it's like we come and do the gig and we're just background music. We don't even get an introduction, you know, and it's just like, okay, we just need to get this done and we'll tick that box. You know, but for us artists, as well, just talking about the music side of things, is that we've got stories to share and we've got messaging, you know, and all of our history and our stories come through our music. So if we're rocking up to a gig, you know, and you booked us for a gig, you need to sit down and listen to our story and watch our music. We're not, you know, just background music for your morning tea, you know. So to get up, stand up, show up is like, be there, be present and be part of, you know, connect with our, learn from our culture, you know. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, yeah, it's really something to ponder on, and it made me think, and, you know, what does get up, stand up, show up mean? And I think it literally means that, is we need everyone to get up, stand up and show up for us, because we can't do it alone. And NAIDOC Week is a great starting point to start that if you're not already. It's a great light-hearted week where we come together, we celebrate our achievements, how far we've come. Our communities are in a place of just excitement and joy, and it's a great starting point for you to just come on in, because it's one thing to wear our fashion labels, but it's a completely another thing to not cross the road when you see us coming down the street. And we don't want our culture to turn into a trend, because we're human beings that require relationship, we require healing, and we require you to walk with us so we can heal together. And it's funny because I was talking to someone yesterday, I've done a lot of talking, and they had this deadly shirt on from them Deadly Mob Clothing The Gap, always was, always will be. And we got talking, and it's like, NAIDOC, brother, you're out representing Deadly. And he said to me, yeah, but it's really interesting because I see all these other Deadly Mob that aren't blackfellas, and I see them wearing the shirt, and I get really excited, and I'm walking down the street, and I'm like, hey, and they'll put their head down and like freak out and won't acknowledge me. And I'm like, isn't that interesting? Because we're not a trend. If you're going to rock our clothing, then we think that you're rocking with us, your family, But I think it's a great stepping stone to go and purchase great product from black business, but we need relationship, and we need you to get up, stand up and show up with us. We want you to walk with us. We want you to, yes, buy our clothes and all that, but we actually want you to come into our community and have a relationship with us, because at the crux of it, there's so much for us to do and achieve to close all of these gaps and to lower all this overrepresentation. So I think this whole theme of get up, stand up, show up is we need everyone. And we want our Deadly Mob to get up, stand up, show up and be proud, don't be ashamed, go out and represent. But we want everyone to come on the journey with us. What do you reckon, Chris? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, it's about what Mitch was saying. It's about standing with us, standing alongside us, but not in a way that you're overshadowing our voices, and you're coming in thinking, oh, I know what's best for these people. In a way that you're listening to who we are as a people, and you're acknowledging that we know better about our people and our culture, and we know what our people need, and we need that assurance that, okay, well, these people know what they want and where they want to go, and not that oh, actually we know better and this will work for you. It's about coming in, listening, hearing our stories, and supporting us through what we want to do for our community and with our community. It's about getting up, standing up and showing up on the direction that we want to head for our mob, because ultimately we know what's best for our people and our mob.
Well said. Well said. So Candice, I've got a question. For many of us as artists, successful doing our thing, we know that when NAIDOC comes around, we're going to be busy, and that's a beautiful thing. But what's your words for anyone out there, any booking agent, what have you, to encourage them to look beyond NAIDOC and our theme days like Sorry Day, Reconciliation Week, because it seems that we are so busy on those days, but then it's almost like you were saying before, that box has been ticked, and we're not at the forefront for the other things throughout the year. So what's your kind of words around that?
I think for us to continue, like as I was saying, everyone can have a NAIDOC week. It doesn't have to be July, early July, whenever that is. I keep forgetting the dates. First week of July. Is to start coming to NAIDOC week and seeing how we do it. I feel like a lot of NAIDOC events is just mainly full of blackfellas. We need to see more of the wider community coming into these NAIDOC events and being part of it and seeing how beautiful it is and how the wonderful, experiences that we create as First Nations people. And I think that everyone can have that really inviting, special you know, moment or event within their own organisation or business or venue. Yeah, I think a lot of people out there might be afraid, and I think they just need to, as you said, build a relationship first, you know, and connect with the elders and do your research. But it's not like you think of it like a job. It's just yarning, you know, coming and connecting and asking the questions. You know, we're happy to answer any questions people might have, you know. Yeah, it's just that reconciliation, you know.
It is. It's so well said. I love what you say, because it's nothing much more to it than just come and have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And like when you go and you talk at corporate levels and you have these discussions, cultural awareness, whatever it is, and it's like, well, how do we engage with Aboriginal community? And I'm like, well, it's really simple. You just come on in, you have a cup of tea, and you sit and you have a conversation. And that's really it. It's not overcomplicated. I think a lot of the stereotypes that surround us and things like that make us appear like a very hostile community, with a lot of anger and rage against non-Aboriginal people, but that's not the case. You don't believe everything you read. So sometimes the best experience is lived experience, and you can only achieve that by one foot in front of the other and come on into our community. And what you will find is that you come on in and you walk out with family. You walk out as a part of something much greater than yourself. You know, it's our community is so beautiful and so loving when you walk through the door in a genuine capacity, like Carissa was saying before. Not with I've got the answers for you blackfellas, I'm going to come in and help them. It's, no, I just want to ride with you, mob, see what it's all about. I want to feel your story, and I know there's a real overrepresentation there, and I just want to do my best to just be a part of the journey. It could be just coming and saying hello and building a rapport. Could be that simple, couldn't it? But it's about coming on in. And it's so funny what you said about the fear, because I've done gigs around NAIDOC to like a non-Aboriginal crowd, and you go up there and excited and it's NAIDOC, and everyone's really serious because of that fear thing. And the fear can be, I don't want to be disrespectful. Like, this is very serious. But it's actually a celebration. And we want you to celebrate and be with us. And I remember when I did the gig, there was one fella laughing, and he was a black fella, and he's like, hey, hey. So I'm like, hey, you mob, relax, it's NAIDOC, get excited. And everyone's very like, you know. But, you know, we're a community that love to laugh and love to have fun, and you can do that in any setting as long as it's done in a respectful manner, you know. We just want you to come and journey with us. But, look, I want to throw to Michael and Laura, if you're good to go, sis. And I just want to ask you about, you know, what are the impacts from a, you know, psychological perspective that you think can impact us as First Nations people coming off the back of saying, you know, a really strong week where you're just so busy, feel so connected, so a part of your community and so celebrated, to then all of a sudden it drops off to nothing, and then all of a sudden it's like what you had to offer is not even second fiddle, it's just, you know, we'll see it again next year kind of thing.
I'll let you go first. Is it working?
Laura, you're on mute. Yep. I think. Yep. There you go.
Is that connection better than ours?
Yep. And I
It's way
think to
better.
help you out, maybe turn your video off, and we'll get a stronger
Yep.
audio from you. Yep.
Okay, no worries. How's that sound?
Beautiful.
Awesome. So, for me, you know, I think it's all about a personal journey too. Like, if you're trying to get your self-worth from external devices, you're never gonna, you know, be fulfilled. So, whilst it's important to celebrate NAIDOC for that week, like, it's our culture, our heritage is always with us. You know what I mean? And we're never alone. Like, even for those of us that might have disconnected families, nature is our family, you know. For mental health and well-being, we know for our mob, it's not just your mind, it's everything. It's spirit, it's you know, emotional, it's connection. Connection is the biggest one, I think. And if we remain connected, and if we remain, you know, healthy within ourselves, then other people are going to see that and gonna naturally want to come along on that journey with us. So instead of them feeling like you know, they're forced to, or that they're owed, you know, they've got to owe something to us, they're going to naturally become inquisitive themselves and go, hey, you know, what you doing over there? Or I love the way you live. I love the way you radiate. I love, you know, I want to know more. I want to learn more. And I think it's got to really start at an individual level.
Beautiful words. Thank you. Michael? what's your
I
perspective?
completely agree with Laura, and that's it. I'll see you guys later. No, yeah, it solely relies on the individual at first. I'm a big backer of having change radiate within you, so it can have change within you, so it can radiate outwards and affect others in a healthy way. I've in 2019, I had a catalyst of change, and I was in a dark space, and I realized that I needed to change within me before I could actually change the world. So from that point, I actually was getting a lot of feedback from everyone saying, hey, we love what you're doing with yourself. It's actually motivating myself to actually, you know, pick up the pieces within my life. And I think if we do that from a cultural standpoint, I think a lot of people will just be magnetized. But unfortunately, you know, the political aspect, particularly in society, you have two extremes yelling over the middle group, which is the majority. So we need to come together in the middle. And I think that in order for that to occur, we need to change within ourselves first, you know, Indigenous or non-Indigenous.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate that.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, NAIDOC week, I mean, we're sort of getting a bit heavy. So I want to bring it back, make it a bit light, because I feel like people out there be like, there's no way I'm going to NAIDOC. This is too much. But it's not about that. We just want to give you an insight into, I think, some of our perspectives, because it's a week that's become so massive and so celebratory, and we don't want it to mask the mountains that we still have to climb either. Like, it's 1 week where we get to celebrate, and then we have to go back to our reality, and our reality is these horrific statistics too. But we want to use this week as a week, I guess, to celebrate and rock our culture and our achievements, and have these incredible NAIDOC balls where we come together as a community and go, look, amidst everything, we're here and we're flourishing and we are successful. But then we also, I guess, want to empower you through that joy and celebration to come and walk with us and lend a hand with your skill set into certain situations. So, like, if you were a lawyer, rather than turn a blind eye to what's going on, maybe you would just go, hey, you know what, I think I could help out here. Or if you're a young 5-year-old, and we would expect that, you know, as parents, then you would be able to take your 5-year-old down to one of our days and let them get their hand painted in our flag colours and create a positive experience. So it's very layered, but what it's all about is just coming in and being a part of our community and lending a hand where you can. Not throwing your whole life away to the cause, but just going, you know what, I'm a human being too, I've got a heartbeat, and if this was my culture and we were going through this, I guess I would want someone to come and just offer a resource or offer a word of advice, or just come sit and listen and empathise. You know, there's many ways for it to be done, isn't there? So with that said, let's get a bit uplifting. What is your best NAIDOC highlight?
Best NAIDOC highlight?
Yeah, and why?
Why? I should have prepared this earlier. Every NAIDOC's a highlight.
No, that's not good enough, all right?
Wow, this is pretty cool. Yeah, so I guess the NAIDOC ball is always my highlight.
Yep.
I guess it's like everyone's highlight too, right? But I guess the I don't know. It's just I don't know why, like, if there's a reason why it's my favourite, but it's just I guess with the Merindas, it was our first time, like, ever being able to play at the ball with like a full band, and
Wow.
it was just beautiful. Like, yeah, and actually no. Then we came to Victoria, and like we performed at the Vic NAIDOC ball as well, the first year that we got here, and that was pretty special as well. And I think what I love is just being in that room and seeing so many, like, mob and laughing, have a good time and connecting. And the reason why I say every NAIDOC is special to me is because every big NAIDOC event that I go to, like the ball, or it might be a big community festival or something, I always end up finding a relative.
Yeah.
Like, I connect with family. You know, I go there and, you know, I kind of say who I am on stage, where I'm from, and then I get all the Darwin mob come up, you know, hey, Papa, who's your mob? And I'm like, oh, you know, Bonson, my dad's Tookie Bonson. And like, we're family, you know. So it's that kind of thing that that's one of the very special things that I love, is that connecting with family at NAIDOC events, yeah.
I love that. I really do. What about you, Krista?
A special thing for me would have to be that connection as well, because you know, like I said, we're surrounded by Western society, and so you rarely see those black mob, and then slowly it's almost like they're coming out of their cave and coming to celebrate. We're all coming together and celebrating NAIDOC, and that would have to be one of the most special moments, but also the fact that we get to be proud of who we are, and we get to acknowledge that and celebrate that, and everyone around us is acknowledging and celebrating that. And so it's really empowering for our mob when we think about mental health. And I just love seeing everyone's energy, and everyone saying, yeah, you know, this is what we've done and this is what we've achieved, and we're here, and our culture is beautiful.
It is, isn't it? What were you going to say, something, Candice?
I was saying it's not like social media, you know, like I very rarely go on social media because I want to go out there and connect and know what people are doing in conversation. You know, I don't want to know everybody's life before I see them. Yeah. Yeah.
It's true, it's true. We didn't even do a school reunion, actually, because everyone was like, I already know what you've been doing the last 10 years, so it's all good. We don't want that for NAIDOC, all right? NAIDOC's staying in the flesh. And I think one of the amazing things about the NAIDOC balls and things like that is it's done in such a well way, such a beautiful way, like where our culture, our achievements, everything is celebrated at it's world class. It's like it's a really night of nights, isn't it? Where our culture shines bright, and not just our culture, but you know, us as individuals and human beings, and the good work that we're doing. It's showcased like it's like the Black Logies in a way, isn't it? It's done in this really beautiful, esteemed way, which is so important. And I think that's another thing where we can have more of our allies or outside community to come in and help us to keep elevating it, you know? You don't have to be at the forefront because it's a night about our people, but you might go, you know what? We've got a great venue. We've got all this rigging. Let's just keep elevating this, and let's get around it and celebrate our First Nations people. Because, you know what, if you're here and you're in this country, well, you know, you should feel somewhat connected and a sense of almost not ownership, but that thing of like, well, this is our culture too. You know, we live here, and we're on the lands of the oldest living continual culture in the world. Like, wow, I feel you should be able to feel connected to that and be able to celebrate that in a way where, like Krista said, it's not overshadowing, but it's a way of like, you're connected, you feel connected to us. And I think we've spent so much time, you know, being disconnected from one another because of media and all these things and history, that it's time that we forge this connection so we could be absolutely elevated. And, you know, if you're out there and you're like, well, why is it always about you being elevated? Like, why can't we be elevated too? Well, it comes back to the statistics. You're already miles ahead of us. You're already miles in front. So we actually need to be elevated just so we can come up to par with where we should be, just as our rights as human beings. You know what I mean? And it's interesting, like it really wiped me out when I was like, out of all Indigenous people, First Nations people on the planet, we've got the lowest life expectancy. And we live in this country that is first world and at the cusp of Western medicine all the time. We're innovating. It's like, well, how does that happen? You know, and I think NAIDOC Week, something where we can come together and celebrate, it's just such a great starting point, isn't it? To open up conversation through celebration and through joy. It's a great thing. So, Michael, Laura, I know you're there. We can't see your face, but we know you're there. We can see that. What do you know, what advice do you have, you know, to anyone out there that, you know, from a mental health, even psychology perspective, feels completely blocked to come and engage with our community and be a part of that celebration, because we know there's transgenerational trauma, there's unconscious things that passed on to us, and that happens with everyone. And when you talk about the way that the country was colonised and all of these things, there can be ingrained threads that create blocks in people where they just unconsciously can't come and connect. So from your point of view, what's ways in which you can identify these blockages and get rid of them and move forward with a more open heart and mind?
I just need to clarify the blocks.
Yes.
Is it for non-Indigenous people trying to...
Yeah, so the block could be, just an innate issue with our people, and like there's never been a problem or nothing, but it's just something that there's just a block there that there's no way you're interested or want to come and engage, or, how can you, reset that block, so to speak, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think one of the first things you need to do is be quite realistic, and realize that not everyone wants to go out of their way and learn a particular culture. I don't particularly want to go out of my own way and go to Europe and live there and learn the customs and stuff. And that's perfectly fine. And it's perfectly fine for people, not to have that willingness. And from there, you can actually be like, okay, cool. What can I do? Because if you don't have that realization and come to that conclusion, it runs the risk of being quite agitated or upset when some people don't want to, or they just don't have the interest. But from there, it really depends as well. It's very individualized. There's a lot of variance. Some may just have the wrong idea. Some probably don't have the outlet and they're dealing with their own stuff. And I think a lot of what we have to do is just be very open, kind, and warm, and not get too frustrated in the process. The more frustration, the less willingness you'll receive. And
so rather put the onus in the hands that aren't ours, we too have to wear that burden. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
control what you can. There's so much that you can't control. And I think if we focus on the things that we can't control, we're going to end up bitter and resentful. So focus on the things you can control, and hopefully the right-minded people will be there to support you.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's really interesting, I think, because, I think for us and many of us, if you're here and you've come here on country, our country, and you're living here, there is an expectation that you do care to a degree. But to come here and not care is not acceptable, because that's what's put us in this position. And I don't mean that in a demeaning or commanding way. I'm just stripping it back to being, human beings with a heartbeat. There's a lot of us that do carry bitterness and anger and pain. And that pain can be from transgenerational trauma, because in the schemes of things, when you look at our narrative and timeline, it wasn't that long ago that some of our kids and mothers were buried up to their necks in riverbeds and had their heads kicked off, or were herded and pushed over cliff faces. And there's many days in our calendar that you mightn't be aware of that is very similar to like an Anzac Remembrance Day. There's Mile Creek Massacre where I'm from, and that's what happened. And people and descendants of those people go and they remember them. They were slaughtered at the hands of the colony with no reason. So there's a lot of our people that carry that pain and don't know why they carry that pain, because it's transgenerational. That we're triggered by certain things, that a surge of such pain and discomfort would rise out of our mouths into a response because of this pain. So when I come back and go, if you are here, it's kind of, we expect that you would learn about us. It's because we're expecting healing. We're expecting for the gap to be closed. And, so this is why we keep coming back to NAIDOC Week and that celebration, because if we can start in a celebratory, way, then maybe that will help open up hearts and minds that are a little bit closed, and you'll walk with us. Because you know what, we're not, I don't think it's right that we should always have to take the high road. Because we do take the high road, but it's very hard when we make up 3%. We need the majority to come in and to just want to know a little bit about us. What do you think, Cerisa?
Yeah, I think Michael definitely has a point in saying, you know, for mob, we should be really careful with where we put our energy, because you know you go on social media and you see these negative racist comments, and you're like, well, should I be educating them? Like, how should I be handling this? And then you've got that other element of that feeling of, I don't want to have to keep teaching everyone, and people outside of that need to put the onus in their own hands, and that's why we're having these discussions. That's why we're having these conversations, is so people can understand where we come from as First Nations people, and for people, non-Indigenous people, to step up to the plate and not just let us carry that load. And then you were talking about, you know, when you come into our country, it's almost like you need to know the history. You should know the history. When people apply for their Australian visa, you know, there's a test that they have to go through. I don't know what the test is about. I think it's more so about colonisation, which is like crazy that we're potentially not included in that test of becoming an Australian. And so, you know, there's that barrier as well. Australia is not about Aussie, you know. It's not about that. It's about our beautiful culture, and people do need to take that onus and learn that that you're coming into our house. Like, we don't come into your house and, you know, just, you know, make a cup of tea and empty your fridge and you know, take your furniture. We do not disrespect your house, and Australia is essentially our house. This land is our house. We belong to this land. You're on Aboriginal land. You're in our house, and you need to respect that and respect that culture. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks, Cerisa. Back to Michael and Laura, because we're going to wrap soon, and you're here on the line, and you've got some really amazing thoughts. So I'm just wondering, I just want to leave it open to both of you. If you have any words you would like to share to everyone out there that's tuned in and viewing around NAIDOC and obviously around your perspectives.
Laura can go first this time, if you'd like.
Oh, okay. So, own thoughts. I just really encourage everybody to get curious about their own sort of triggers and responses, because, you know, I've seen both sides of it as well, and there's non-Indigenous people that carry a lot of guilt, and that's on them, you know, as well, that they need to explore, but we've also got to make it safe enough for them to explore it as well. And yes, there's been a lot of history that are being done to us, intergenerational trauma. I'm living it, like many of us have. But that, you know, that's up to me too, to decide whether I want to carry that on to my kids. That's my responsibility, and that's all I can control. So I really encourage, like, our mob. You know, we do have this beautiful culture, and family is so important. But I've also lived, you know, in community as well, where I've been scared of our own mob. You know, so I get that aspect of it too. I get the fear. I was born and raised in Alice Springs. You know, when you're waking up in the middle of the night with somebody breaking into your house, you know, and then your kids, and then your kids are scared to identify as Aboriginal because of that kind of stuff. So, you know, I understand both sides of it. And I just really encourage people to get curious about their own triggers and create a safe space, because I think many of us are fearful, but we're coming from a good place. We just need guidance on how to get there.
So Laura, with that said, I think that's great. What's some ways in which I suppose we can create safe spaces for our non-Indigenous counterparts to, come in and feel safe to come and connect and to, be a part of our journey, I guess?
For me, what I think is, and it's going to sound pretty, like, I guess, corny, but know the self. Like, understand your own triggers.
Sure.
Because another thing I live by is you can only meet somebody at the level that you've met yourself. And if you haven't done the work to dig deep enough to meet yourself, how can you possibly understand another's perspective? And owning it, like, if it's uncomfortable, own that. If you're starting to get welled up and, like, if you're starting to get angry, like, because, like, that's my dominant emotion that I'm learning myself,
Yep.
is that anger. But owning it, going, look, okay, I'm getting really, peed off now. I'm just going to go walk away and take a few breaths, but I'm committed to making this. I'm committed to hearing your side. I'm committed to, healing this together. I just need to control me for a moment, because that's all I can control, and then come back into it, but really, really do the work on yourself, because, that's the only thing you can control.
And what do you mean, to anyone out there that's like, what are you talking about, sis? Like, what do you mean I have to go and meet myself? I looked in the mirror this morning and I'm John. Is that it, or what? What does doing the work consist of? How does one start the journey of meeting themselves and, honing in on some triggers and doing that self-work? And I know that's a big question, but if you can sort of just summarise it a little bit, just to help kickstart someone on their journey, so to speak.
Okay. It is a very big question.
Yeah, sorry.
And it's, many people use the analogy of an onion. You do a little bit and, you peel more and more layers off. But I guess asking that question, if there's something that you don't like about yourself, or if you're catching yourself in a pattern, or if you're like, why me? Why does this keep happening to me? Start there. Start exploring that. Start going, okay, well, hold on. Is this a pattern that has occurred, many times throughout life? Where does that come from? Who do I need to talk to? And for me, my experience as a single mother raising 4 kids,
Yep.
My biggest thing is having faith. Like, spirit will always guide you to where you need to go. And whether you need to go outside and scream or cry, or you don't need to understand it. Just trust the emotions that come up and process it. Because, like, as you know, intergenerational trauma, those emotions might not even belong to you. So you might be going crazy, not understanding why. Nothing might have ever triggered you, but just going out and processing it. And if that means you got to cry and don't understand why, do it, but slowing down, disconnecting from social medias and internet, and literally just going outside barefoot. And I speak to the moon. For me, moon is grandmother. And when I'm in my darkest times, and man, I've had a lot, just going, what do I need to learn here? And trust and have faith that you'll be guided. And see in nature, the cycles of nature. The moon is whole once a month. We don't always need to be whole. There are the times when there is no moon. That's even more important, to be in darkness. And then I refer that back to myself. Okay, right now I need to not be seen. I need to do some work. Okay, now we go through phases. Now I've got to go out there and be seen and do some work to be seen. Understanding country is so important to understanding self, I believe, because there's no ego in that too. You're not misguided. You're trusting. You already have the answers within you, but you need that time outside of, common life and busyness to be able to listen to it and hear it.
Wow, beautiful words. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think you've done such a great job in such a short time to get your point across. Thanks so much. And Michael, Ball's in your hands now, brother. You've got some high expectations. I know we've sort of colour coordinated, so I'm going to give you a bit of grace. But what's your thoughts, brother? Talk to us.
Yeah, sure. Well said, Laura. I liked all of that. It was very good. So for me, I'm a big believer in reverse engineering your outcome. So it's a bit morbid, but I'm like, okay, if I was on my deathbed, would I be happy with my life so far?
Okay.
And then I'm like, well, there are a couple of things pending that I would like to, have the comfort of knowing when I'm laying there. I'm like, okay, well, what are those outcomes? Well, I would like to do this. I'm like, okay, well, in order for that to occur, how do I do that? And then I start stripping away until the very bottom to find the first spark to start that entire trajectory. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'm not the most educated. How am I going to do that? Okay, well, I need to enroll in university, become sharp, read books, play the game. I think the biggest proponent towards the Indigenous population having the voice is we're not playing the game. And I think, there's structures that do exist now, and I think we need to learn how to navigate through that. And the best tool to use to navigate through that is speech, language, academia, as well as I try to be objective as possible. I try to stay away from ideologies, because through ideology, you adopt a set belief structure and you can only look through that narrow lens. So with data, so let's say with politics, you have the left and the right, but there's only one data point. However, with the left and the right, it's temperament. So the left have a temperament, the right have a temperament, but they're looking at the same data. And the more you realize that, the more that we have just different ideas on the same data. And I found that extremely useful for being very resilient towards other perspectives. And it's a skill in itself. I'm not saying it's easy. And just staying away from hate. I know it's very easy to get swept up in hate and anger, malice, but these are poisons intended for the person that you're hating, but it's only affecting yourself. And it'll only affect you in the long run, and they'll be fine. And there's no need for that. As well, to realize that suffering isn't exclusive. Everyone suffers, and life is unfortunately a tragedy. Everything we do serves as a tool, or serves to decrease the suffering, whether it be through addiction or serving a higher purpose, or finding your meaning and helping the community, which it always should be, is to add to the net positive of the world through community. I stand by that. Particularly with Indigenous populations, our serotonin transporters respond ridiculously well to collectivist values. And I think, serotonin also plays a key role in disease prevalence. So the more serotonin you have, the less disease prevalence there is in a culture. And because of the fragmentalization of the Indigenous culture in Australia through colonization, we've lost a lot of that, the tether to our culture. Language has degraded. A lot of states don't follow traditions that we normally did that would actually bring us closer to the land and spirit. And now, you have this, I'd say the SAD diet, which is the standard American diet, which has just plagued the nation really, where you have high sugar content, low protein, and this is leading to diabetes, dementia, just a lot of metabolic dysfunction. So yeah, get educated.
Get educated, people.
Yeah,
all right?
Get healthy.
Eat more protein, less sugar.
Yeah, become superpowers, and you can. You
Michael,
really
I got to
can
say, your linguistics are a superpower, my brother. You are so well spoken. And sorry to cut you off, my man, but we've ran over time, so I'm getting the wink.
Sorry.
But thank you so much, Michael, for your insight. I'm looking at you, I'm like, this brother looks way too young to be speaking that way. How dare I stereotype you, my brother? Thank you so much for your words. Laura, it's good to see your face again. Sorry we had to black you out, but you're back, my sister, better than ever. Thank you for your insight. And look, for everyone that's tuned in today at this Yarn Strong, you know, we've gone a bit deep and heavy, but the reality is NAIDOC Week, just celebrate. That's all you got to do. If you see us walking down the street and you're rocking our shirt and we give you a nod, that's like a nod of approval, like nod back. Hey, my sister Sister Candice, thank you for all that you are and what you're doing as well. Incredible work. And as always, Cerisa, she is the backbone of this incredible segment and series. She puts so much work in. Big shout out to JB Hi-Fi for their support. Troy Benjamin, who is behind all of this technological behaviour. And I'm going to hand it over to Cerisa. Thank you.
A big shout out to Nate, who is doing the sound and the streaming. Troy, who he is going to actually collate the video for us, and then we're going to do a replay as well. So if you feel like you need to hear this discussion again, definitely keep an eye out online. Thank you, Mitch, for your hosting. You're such an amazing host, and I feel like you're part of this backbone as well because you carry the show so well. So thank you for everything that you do. Thanks, Candice, for coming on. It's really amazing to hear your insight, and thank you, Michael and Laura as well. Your insights were amazing, and I love what you're doing.
Thank you. You too.
And also to JB High Five and Support Act as well.
We've got to thank Support Act.
Yeah.
We probably should thank Support Act.
Support Act is doing such an amazing work. So.
Incredible work in the mental health space, looking after all of our artists. First Nations, about all artists from all walks of life. It's absolutely an incredible initiative, isn't it? Organisation. And we couldn't do what we're doing without Support Act. So, yeah, big shout out.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.